Former nurse RaDonda Vaught has been convicted of criminally negligent homicide and gross neglect of an impaired adult in the death of a patient she accidentally gave the wrong medication. The medical community is very concerned about criminalizing medical mistakes and what this verdict could mean going forward. Hey everybody, welcome to True Crime Paranormal. I'm Christy Brower, here with my sister, co-host, and partner in crime, Katie Weaver. Hey Katie.
Hello.
How's it going?
It is going well. I can't believe we're already hitting Wednesday.
Right?
This week has gone by really fast. But
It has.
I am good. I can't believe we're at the end of the month either. Where is
Right?
time going?
It's almost April.
I know, it's wild. Yeah.
It's all good though.
I can't complain. I am getting so anxious to get my puppies.
Oh, I bet.
It's just crazy. I was thinking, when we got our last year Chihuahua, he was so tiny that he only weighed 8 ounces.
Looked like a hamster.
He did. He was so tiny, and he was so cold. And Christy and Rhonda bought some really cute toddler socks, and we cut holes in them for his little arms to go through. And that's what he wore for sweaters for quite a while, was little baby socks, toddler socks.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about these guys. Are they going to need toddler socks or maybe just little kid socks? They make good sweaters for tiny dogs, but and kittens too that need a sweater. But anyway, so I don't know. I've been thinking about maybe I should need to start buying some stuff and preparing for puppies.
Are you nesting for puppies?
I'm nesting for puppies, apparently. Yeah.
Well, I can't wait to meet them. That's going to be so fun.
Yeah, I'm super excited. And how are you?
Very good. Just living life, doing well.
Well, good. Living the dream.
Living the dream, down true crime rabbit holes all day, every day.
Yeah.
Not really all day, but
Yeah.
There's plenty of it.
We just learned that season 3 of Dairy Girls will be out in 2 weeks. So
excited.
Clear your calendars. You will be doing nothing else. At least I won't.
Definitely. And if you have not watched Dairy Girls on Netflix, do yourselves a favor.
Go binge 1 and 2 so that you're all set to join the gals. Yep.
Oh my goodness. It's so funny.
Yeah. And
Always
this is
good
the last season. This is it. So
yeah. So don't miss out, because you're missing something if you haven't seen it.
For sure.
Well, Katie, I hear that you have a bit of WTF news for us to kick off this episode.
I really do. I'm already laughing about it. Let's see.
All right.
Well, WTF, Boston. This actually happened 2 years ago, but I decided to go ahead and bring it to you anyway because it's well worth it. And you probably haven't heard about this, so who cares, right? So this happened at the Franklin Park Zoo in Boston a couple of years ago. And there was a gentleman who kind of broke all the rules at the jail. Or at the zoo, sorry, probably the jail too later, but at the zoo. And his name is Matthew Franklin. And Matthew wandered into the zoo at 9:30 in the morning before it was open and hopped over a few enclosures at the tiger enclosure. Now, he didn't get clear in the enclosure, but he got right up to the enclosure, like the very last separation between, the people and the tigers.
Oh my goodness.
And then some employees came around the corner and he turned and hopped a fence and headed out. And so zoo officials grabbed him. Zoo security grabbed him because, by all accounts, it looked like he was trying to break into the tiger enclosure.
Right.
I mean, he was almost there when he got caught.
Oh my
So
gosh.
they sent him to the hospital to have a psychological evaluation,
Seems legit.
as you
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
Yeah. And from there, the hospital said, no, he's totally sane. So the police said, all right, well, then we'll take our, dare I say, crack at the apple.
Oh
they uh,
man.
they arrested him and charged him with criminal trespass and a couple of things, related to, from their thinking, trying to break into the tiger enclosure.
Right.
Well, then he was interviewed by the local news, and he was like, break into the tiger enclosure? That's crazy. I would have been murdered. They would have killed me. He was like, no, no, no. I just wanted to look into the eye of the tiger.
What? Oh, okay.
That's what he was trying to do. He just wanted to look into the eye. So, duh, people. He wasn't trying to get killed. He just wanted to look into the eye of the tiger. He said he was about 20 yards away, but there was a fence. The tiger did growl at him. He acted like this was pretty commonplace. It's not. He said
No.
it's something called the eye of the tiger. The eye of the tiger is the most dangerous thing you'll see in your whole life. And they say, I don't know who they is, and I'm going to recommend whoever they are, you probably should quit talking to them. But they say that when you look into the eye of the tiger, you can see the whole soul. So naturally, he broke into the zoo and tried to see the whole soul. Whose soul? The tiger's? He wanted to let the tiger see his soul. I wasn't totally clear on that, but this was
Yeah.
all about the eye of the tiger, yo.
I thought looking in the eye of the tiger was all about the thrill of the fight.
No, no.
What the hell? What an idiot.
Mhm. Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad he didn't
So,
get in the tiger enclosure because those
um,
things never end well.
no.
But still, dude, what?
Seems like a questionable decision. So,
Yes.
if ever somebody tells you that what you really need to do is break into the zoo and go peer into the eye of the tiger, I'd pass. I would pass.
Yeah, I think that's a no thanks for me. Wow.
Yeah. But if you really want to look into the eye of the tiger, look, you can do it right now. Go for it. Here you
All
go.
right, I'm looking. If you guys
All
are
right.
listening, we're looking at a picture of a tiger's eyes right now. I, I'm not scared. So,
I kind of feel like you can see the soul from looking into anyone's eyes. It doesn't have to be a tiger, but
right.
that's okay. So anyway, but they did say he was sane, so we don't really know the whole what's or whys or hows of this. But there you go. That's now you know.
Well, okay. Note to self, don't try that.
Yeah, don't. And whoever tells you that, they're not your friend.
Yeah, whoever
Not your
that
friend.
they is needs. Yeah, no.
Questionable. A questionable they. Yep.
Mhm.
Well, I am going to kick the mic back over to you for our main case.
Okay. Well, I'm bringing a case that it's been charged as a crime and this person has been convicted. There are real questions about whether this was actually a crime or not, and it brings up a lot of questions in healthcare. So this is the
Mm-hmm.
story of Nurse RaDonda Vaught. And RaDonda was a nurse in Tennessee, in Nashville, at Vanderbilt Hospital there.
Mm-hmm.
Had was well known as a good nurse, worked in the neurological ICU,
Mm-hmm.
you know, had a good history, never had really
Mm-hmm.
been in trouble or anything. Well, RaDonda made a really big mistake back in December of 2017.
Mm-hmm.
She was told to give a patient, and the patient's name is Charlene Murphy. Was Charlene Murphy. She was 75 at the time, and she'd had a head injury. She was awaiting an MRI, and so RaDonda was supposed to give her a dose of Versed, which is a sedative, to calm her before she went into the MRI.
Sure.
So at this hospital, they have what's called a computerized medication cabinet. So basically, instead of waiting for the pharmacy to bring nurses medication, they can go get it out of this cabinet. Well, RaDonda screwed up. Instead of grabbing Versed, she grabbed Vecuronium, which is a pretty heavy-duty paralytic.
Is that what she ordered?
Is that what she ordered? No, what was ordered was Versed. But when she went to the cabinet to get the medication,
That's what she got. Okay.
grabbed the Vecuronium instead of the Versed. Of
Got
course,
it. Okay.
you think about it, if they're alphabetical, they were next to each other in the
Sure.
cabinet. So Versed is a liquid and Vecuronium is a powder. But that, like, all of the things that should have clued her in that she was giving the wrong medication did not compute. So she gives Charlene Murphy the dose of Vecuronium and then left the room. And this is where really the neglect comes in, is that when a nurse puts a medication into your IV, then they need to stay with you for a few minutes and make sure that you're not having an adverse reaction or something. Had she stayed, she would probably have noticed that the patient was having trouble breathing and, may have been able to reverse what happened. But she didn't. She knew that the imaging people were coming to get her for her MRI. And so she just left her in the room. And Charlene Murphy died.
Oh.
She was brain dead. She couldn't take a breath. Like a paralytic will stop you from being able to breathe. And so she died. And when RaDonda realized what she'd done, she immediately reported it, to her superiors. And she has been very open all along that she did this. This was her mistake. And, usually these kinds of issues are dealt with by the hospital and by licensing agencies and by
more on the civil side.
the civil courts if necessary. Yeah. But unfortunately, in this case, that is not the way that it went. She has just been found guilty of 2 different charges. So she's been found guilty of negligent homicide, gross neglect of an impaired adult, and negligent homicide. And so she could do 3 or 4 years in prison for this. And it's a scary thing, and the medical community is really, really concerned about it.
Yeah.
Because up to this point, this stuff was dealt with civilly and internally, because medical mistakes happen, and they happen a fair amount. Also, the system has no consequences in this situation. RaDonda was covering for another nurse. So Charlene Murphy was not her patient. And so she was also training a new nurse at the same time. So she's seeing a patient that she doesn't know. She's training someone. And then they have this situation where instead of like the pharmacy checking a medication and delivering it to the nurse so that there are some extra checks and balances, she just has to get it out of this cupboard. So
kind of set up for failure in a few different ways.
Yes. And I mean, obviously she made a big mistake. I mean, Versed is a liquid and the Vecuronium is a powder. Like the way that it's administered is different. It looks different. Like she should have caught that. But there's no intent. They've not proven any criminal intent. All of this is about negligence because she didn't intend to kill anybody. But in fact did.
She did. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a big deal. So there's a big nursing group on Facebook that has like 600,000 members, and it's called Show Me Your Stethoscope. And there's a nurse that's founded it. It's called, her name is Janie Harvey Garner. And she says, healthcare has just changed forever. You can no longer trust people to tell the truth because they will be incriminating themselves.
Yeah.
So normally, doctors and nurses are encouraged to speak up if they know that they made a mistake, and they come up with a plan to, resolve it. And, if they have to, they go through civil courts and those kinds of things. But this precedent is really dangerous to set because it means that people will be afraid to speak up because they will be incriminating themselves criminally.
Right. Which could cost more lives easily.
Right. I mean, the purpose of all of this is to keep the conversation going and open so that when mistakes happen, they can be resolved quickly, and there's training, and, there's lots of stuff. I mean, the thing is, Charlene Murphy was in the hospital with a brain injury. If she had died and RaDonda had not spoken up, it's likely they wouldn't even have caught the mistake. Like, they probably would have just, said, oh, it was from her head injury.
Right.
So really
but
interesting.
She did the right thing, the responsible thing.
She did.
And spoke
she
up
did.
as you would. Yeah.
And, the other issue is that we have a national nursing shortage.
Yeah.
And this is another reason that the medical community, the nursing community are speaking out. Like, if you make this too hard for people, they're just not going to be nurses.
Right.
Which there's a point here. And I don't want to make it sound like I don't think RaDonda did anything wrong, because she did. She seriously screwed up. Although they have not actually been able to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that the paralytic is what killed Charlene Murphy. They are assuming it is, but it's not actually possible to know for sure. And yet she's been convicted, which I find that scary. Where's beyond a reasonable doubt here when they can't even say for 100% positive that Charlene Murphy wouldn't have died anyway.
Right. They maybe can say it contributed or potentially contributed.
Yeah.
That is scary. I was very surprised to see this conviction, honestly. I didn't really think they'd get it.
I didn't either. I think that a lot of people are shocked by this, and the negligence around not staying with her, that is a big deal. It is. But if you've ever been in a hospital, they're always understaffed.
Right.
Nurses are running, as fast as they can to get through as many patients and do as many things as possible. And I mean, do those protocols always get followed? No. I'm sure that they don't.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Is this a crime? Is this a terrible accident?
It's not. It's not like she did it because she was one of those nurses that purposely kill their patients.
No, there's no intent.
It's not like
behind it.
she did it because she was involved in committing some kind of other crime that resulted in this.
Right.
Those are the things that bother me,
Yeah.
It's not like she did this because because she didn't make this mistake because she was high at work, or some other damn thing. None of those things. And so I'm really troubled by it too. And I agree that a lot of hospitals need to step it up. But that's the hospitals in general, typically, not necessarily the nurses. And again, don't at me. I know plenty of nurses, that probably aren't great and have made a lot of mistakes. And we know that there are actual serial killer nurses. We've covered them lots of times.
Right.
That doesn't seem to be the case in this case in any way. So
it doesn't.
Criminal charges?
Yeah. It's scary because it could change our healthcare system. And, do I want there to be fewer mistakes made and fewer people killed by accident? Hell yes, I do. Is putting RaDonda Vaught in prison going to do that? No,
No,
it's not at all. So I don't know. I just
No.
found this case really interesting and something to think about a little bit, and
Mhm.
just to be aware that this is happening, for one, because, there's a lot of people saying that there's going to be fallout in the medical
Yeah.
community from this. People who will not report when they make an error, people
Yeah.
who will choose not to be nurses, and it's
Mhm.
been a rough few years for nurses anyway with the
Yeah.
pandemic. And, I think the nursing community is feeling pretty unappreciated right now.
Mhm. Well, not only that, the potential for people to then set each other up for stuff like this.
Hmm.
The wrong person being blamed. What happens when a doctor makes a mistake like this? And it's really easy to push it off on a nurse who actually gets the charge. There's a lot of concerns here, a lot of things that could go wrong.
Yeah. And of course, the prosecutor in this case had said that they weren't trying to make an example of RaDonda, and they're
Oh,
not trying to set precedent,
but you did.
but they did. Whether they were trying to or not, they have. And
So, two predictions from me. One, she will appeal this to high heaven and probably win because
there
this
have
is
been
crazy
calls
talk.
for clemency from the governor, even.
Interesting. Well, that's interesting because my other prediction is that what we'll see from this is individual states creating their own laws around the healthcare community and how they can or cannot be charged and things. We'll start seeing
Hmm.
some legislation come from this. But for a time, it's going to be a rocky road. Now, where we live in Idaho, we like to go the wrong direction on literally everything. So,
Always
we'll probably pass something that, makes
makes it all
absolutely no
worse.
one want to be a nurse for any reason whatsoever. But
Yeah.
this will just start
Well,
legislation.
it will. It will. And it's scary because what it makes me think of is qualified immunity for police, and about
Hmm.
how much that has been abused
Yeah.
in situations where the behavior was criminal. I
Hmm.
just don't know why this case is the example. But
Me neither. There are much more egregious acts out there than this.
yeah, there are. And, I mean, all the love to Charlene Murphy's family. Of
Of
course,
course.
they lost her and they want justice and they want to know why. And, I get that. I do. But the impact that this is going to have on our healthcare system,
Hmm.
I don't see how it's going to be good.
Hmm.
I don't see how it's going to bring about change that
Hmm.
protects from patients from having these
Yeah.
experiences again. I don't see how this is going to do that.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. So
Hmm.
we'll keep an eye on RaDonda Vaught and on what her sentence will actually be,
Hmm.
um, and if there will be anyone stepping in, and appeals and all of those things to try
Hmm.
to, because obviously they're not done fighting it. So
Yep.
yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, I know you have a DNA for the win for us.
Yes, I do. Do you know how much it costs to do the DNA work required to catch a killer
Thousands of dollars.
or to identify a body?
Yeah.
Low end, 5K.
Okay.
It's why a lot of, especially like John and Jane Doe's, never get identified. It's why so many rape kits are never processed. It's why a lot of this DNA stuff has been sitting on the shelf and not being processed like it should,
Sure.
because individual municipalities can't afford it.
Right.
$5,000 a whack. They just don't have it.
Hmm.
So, something that has been happening, thanks to the true crime community by and large, has been philanthropists stepping forward to help catch killers, which
Hmm.
is pretty interesting, and crowdfunding to help catch killers.
Yeah.
So, I want to tell you a little bit about this amazing lady. Her name is Carla Davis, and
Okay.
she is a philanthropist who has made it her business to start trying to solve as many cold cases as possible in her home state of Mississippi.
Oh, wow.
It started with her on LinkedIn last year. She saw a post called Identify the Victim of the 1978 Tennessee Murder. And she has a real passion for DNA anyway. She never knew who her father was.
Oh, wow.
And as an adult, when it became possible to start putting your DNA into the systems, and see, she sent her DNA to Ancestry and 23andMe and GED match and got a match and found her father. He was
Mm-hmm.
deceased, but she discovered that her dad had been a race car driver that lived not very far from where she grew up.
Oh,
And
wow.
while he died of prostate cancer before she had a chance to meet him, she was able to meet his family and kind of have some completion to her life and understand
Yeah.
who she is. And so she already is involved with DNA on a different level. She's involved in a Facebook group who helps people to track down their families
Oh.
using DNA. So
Mm-hmm.
she's already got a big passion for this, as is. Then she saw this opportunity, and at the time when she saw this GoFundMe, it needed still about $4,000 to get to their goal. They'd raised about 1,000,
Mm-hmm.
and she has that kind of money. So she went, "What the hell? Why not?" Right?
Mm-hmm.
So she went ahead and donated the $3,800 that was needed. She actually
Wow.
lives in Dubai now,
Oh, wow.
but uh, this just seemed interesting to her. So they reached out to her. This was it was Othram Lab that was crowdfunding. This is what's
Mm-hmm.
pretty amazing too. It wasn't the police department; it was Othram Lab that was saying, "Hey,
Wow.
we have this case in front of us. We really want to solve it. Help us." And people are sending in money, which I think is amazing and an amazing thing to be
Mm-hmm.
a part of. So they
Yes.
contacted her and said, "Was that a mistake?" Because most people don't send us that kind of money. And she said, "It was not. Go catch your killer." And they did.
Wow.
And it was pretty cool. And she has now given Othram about $100,000.
Oh, wow.
Now, Othram is not a nonprofit. There's no tax write off for this. She doesn't care. She's just realizing how many families have waited so long for answers, and she is wants to be a part of the answer.
Sure.
So, and it's not just her. There are a whole bunch of different groups. Uh, Othram says that or there I don't think this is just Othram. This is a New York Times article, and I will
Mm.
link it in the case description. But they they say that so far donors around the country have given around $1 million
Wow.
to DNA dragnets,
Mm-hmm.
which is pretty amazing.
That really is.
Hmm. There is another group called the Vegas Justice League. They're a group of wealthy friends in the Vegas area, obviously, that have given Othram about $45,000.
Wow.
And that has resulted in solving 3 murder rape cases from Las Vegas from the 70s and 80s.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, I know that Crime Junkie, the podcast, that
Hmm.
they have raised a fair amount of money and have been doing the same, identifying unidentified bodies.
They have raised around $300,000, in fact.
It's
Yep.
amazing.
Yep. And that is exactly what they're doing. It's a pretty amazing thing to think that people are here for it, that they're willing to
Mhm.
help contribute and send in money and help solve these cases. It's kind of sad, I think, that our system itself isn't able to just pay for these things. But then again, they're operating on the budgets that they have. And maybe it's okay that the private spectrum or private sector is pitching in.
Mhm. Well, the backlog is so huge that I
Yeah.
think that, small municipalities just
Hmm.
cannot get on top.
Hmm. Hmm. Oh,
So
yeah,
helping
without
to
a
get
doubt.
caught up,
Yeah.
is a huge job.
Yeah. Now, Audio Chuck is a podcast company who has a whole bunch of true crime uh, uh, shows on their genre. They
Mhm.
have donated $800,000.
Yeah, that's who produces Crime Junkie,
Okay,
is Audio
yeah,
Chuck.
yeah, eight
That's really
hundred
cool.
thousand dollars
Wow.
towards solving these cases. I just think it's really heartwarming and amazing.
It is.
Yeah. So the nonprofit that Crime Junkie has founded is called Season of Justice. They have themselves have raised $250,000.
Wow.
And that $250,000 has made grants towards 53 unsolved cases.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
That is neat.
it's absolutely amazing. Yeah. Now, if you're interested, the group that Carla Davis is involved with is called DNA Detectives. It's a Facebook group. And DNA Detectives have people that are a part of the group that are called Search Angels. And the Search Angels can help you, or you could become a Search Angel to help other people to get your DNA figured out so that you can find your family. They're not
Wow.
solving crimes. They are
Hmm.
searching for families. But,
Right.
from that, they are also working beyond this.
Wow.
So,
That's really, really cool.
isn't that just amazing? I
Hmm.
absolutely love it. It is just so cool. So, it seems that there are other philanthropic, groups that are springing up to do this same kind of work. So watch for them, or hell, found one if you can.
Hmm.
She has now pledged that she's going to continue to give money to Othram to solve every cold case she possibly can in Mississippi, because that's her
Wow.
home state. You
Hmm.
know, if every state worked together as a populace to fundraise and crowdfund for all of their cold cases, imagine what we
Yeah.
could do.
Be
So,
amazing.
something to consider. Pretty amazing. But
Yeah.
it looks like it is somewhere around 5 grand per case,
Hmm.
at the low end, to do the DNA work and to get the genealogical, the family tree figured
Yeah.
out,
Yeah.
the reverse
Wow.
family tree situation. And
Hmm.
sometimes I think it's more depending on how complex and in depth the whole situation is. But at any
Sure.
rate, that's kind of where it's at. I thought it was interesting to know that number.
That is interesting to know.
So I thought we would call this a DNA for the win case, because I certainly think that it is.
It is. It is. And it's one of the things that I love about our global society
Mm-hmm.
is that there are so many ways to get involved and
Mm-hmm.
be of help to
Yeah,
people. Yeah. Very, very
absolutely.
awesome.
Yep. So now you know.
Well, now we know.
Yeah.
Well, we've had the eye of the tiger. We've had the nurse that is not a criminal, probably. And now we've had some very good news in the DNA world. So I would
Yeah.
call this, sometimes we have an episode that we're like, oh my God, every one of these cases was tough to hear. This is
Mm-hmm.
a little different tonight,
Yeah.
today, whenever
Yeah.
you're listening to
This
this.
is yeah. This is a good Wednesday treat. Yeah.
Yes, yes, it is. And this is our Wednesday episode. So we will be back this evening at 7 p.m. Mountain on live stream on YouTube and Facebook for the Wednesday night case updates. And we always have lots and lots of true crime updates for you on Wednesday nights.
Mm-hmm.
Tomorrow night, Thursday at 7 p.m. Mountain, is the Psychic Hour. And we will also be live streaming that. And then, we'll be back next week with lots more great stuff. So be sure to check out our new episodes this week and let us know what you think about RaDonda Vaught
Yeah.
and this case. I'm curious to hear people's perspectives. I know a lot of
Mm-hmm.
nurses have been in court showing solidarity for her.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
I
I'm
think people's
curious.
perspectives will be based on whether or not you have your own background in healthcare, or your family
Mhm.
members, and or if you lost a family member due to medical negligence. I think that we'll kind of see both sides of that
Yeah.
really emerge.
Well, and it's definitely, both issues are very important. It's
Sure.
just, how do we solve this problem? I
Yeah.
don't think jailing individual nurses is the way to go, personally. But
No, I don't either.
yeah,
But it's true. It is complex.
it
Yeah.
is very
So we'll
much.
keep an eye on it.
Absolutely. All right. Well, you know it. We are True Crime Paranormal with the Psychic Sisters. Thanks for being here.
Take care.